Hello and welcome to Hold Up, a movie podcast. I am with your hosts, myself, Davan, Skelhorn, and with me, as always, as last time, because there was only one before this one, Chris, Worldmind Murphy. How's it
Hey
going,
now,
Murphy?
good buddy. Good,
Oh,
good, good.
it's
Happy to
going
talk
well.
about some spooky shenanigans with you.
Yeah, well, it's funny you say that. Tonight's theme is werewolves. Werewolves? Were we wolves? We'll say werewolves.
We are wolves of the night.
But I'm really liking this podcast we're doing here, Murphy. I know we just started, but it's given me reason to watch movies again. And I must admit, I had sort of fallen out of love with movies. They were such a huge part of my life for so long, but due to some of the issues I have with modern movies that we'll discuss at length on this show,
Mm-hmm.
I just stopped watching even the old ones that I love a lot. And look, and this has given me a reason to, and I think that's great. So, thanks for
Yeah,
joining me, Murphy.
no, I'm glad to, man. Honestly, like I think I would have to agree that I've been watching more shows. If anything, lately it's YouTube and shows, just because they're more, easier consumed and smaller and all that stuff. But I agree that movies were a big part of my life, and getting back into watching them and having a reason to watch particular movies, especially ones uh, have always considered watching, but honestly never just took the time out of my day to watch, like the ones that we watched recently, especially one of the films we're going to be talking about today. It almost seems like it's ritual to watch some of these films and to have not watched them. On up until now, it was mostly on my part, but like it's a great reason to do so. So,
Yeah,
like, I think it's really fun, and that honestly, that if you allow me, before we get into tonight's topic, I kind of want to take a moment to rewind, if you will. Uh, you know, take it back just to last week's episode. Just highlight some moments that we might have missed, or may have just perhaps through technical reasons weren't able to get through. And I think this is a perfect time. I wanted to show you a clip from The Majestic. In my opinion, it was the best clip, and it's a scene that was set up that I think is gonna just it's a good setup for what we're doing in this podcast. I think it's a good tonal setup, and basically what I want to say is like, we're trying to find the magic, if you will. So like, check this out.
Look around. It's a dump.
Told you so.
I am looking around. And all I see is potential. Potential for what? This place is ready to fall down. All you'd have to do is walk outside and give it a good shove.
You're wrong. You are, you know. Oh, I know she doesn't look like much now, but once this place was like a palace.
Palace.
That's why we called it Majestic. Any man, woman, child could buy their ticket, walk right in. Here they'd be, here we'd be. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Enjoy the show. And in they'd come, entering a palace like in a dream, like in heaven. Maybe you had worries and problems out there, but once you came through those doors, they didn't matter anymore. And you know why? Chaplin, that's why. And Keaton and Lloyd. Garbo, Gable, and Lombard, and Jimmy Stewart, Jimmy Cagney, Fred and Ginger. They were gods. And they lived up there. That was Olympus. Would you remember if I told you how lucky we felt just to be here? To have the privilege of watching them? I mean, this television thing, why would you want to stay home and watch a little box? Because it's convenient? Because you don't have to get dressed up? Because you can just sit there? I mean, how could you call that entertainment alone in your living room? Where's the other people? Where's the audience?
Okay, well, for some reason it just stopped there. He proceeds to end the scene with, "Where's the audience? Where's the magic?" And truly, what I want to get across is, where is the magic? Uh, in film, it's kind of the only magic we have in our everyday reality, you know? So it's fun to go back and analyze these past collections of magic and the ones that are currently going on right now.
You know, I'm glad you played that clip for another reason too, because I think it highlights where the Majestic failed for me, as we both put that in the C class, as is it not particularly holding up for us. And I think the reason why it didn't for me is because it might be my own fault, really. It wasn't what I wanted it to be. I thought that movie was going to be a love letter to old cinema, and it sort of was, but it was more so a love letter to like the American
Americana
culture,
dream.
really. Americana, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think he wanted to do both with that, but if it had just gone all in on this beautiful love letter to old cinema, you could tell very much the same story. You just kind of
I think that would have been a good approach to that. And I agree. It was at fault, but at what is arguably a subpar movie, that was the best scene. So that was my little rewind moment for that.
Martin Landau makes you want to go watch a movie with him in an old cinema.
Dude, he's so good, man. Like, I loved him in Ready to Rumble. He was the best character in that movie. Like, that's probably going to be one that we might have to approach on the list.
But... All right, well, we've already got like 40 episodes planned.
Well, yeah, no, you got to stay tuned for that for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, one last rewind before we move on to today's episode.
And I don't know how we forgot about this.
I can't believe we forgot about this. In all the fuss and fury that we had over this fucking movie, I gotta say, well, this was probably the more interesting scene. So let's just pop this one on.
Average injection 50 micromilligrams. 50. I'm making it 100 micromilligrams in solution.
Okay, he went from 15 micromilligrams to 100, so he's just like, YOLO, I'm going for this.
He's a man of science.
But, like, okay, if anyone who's taken this form of drug, you normally can just orally ingest it. You don't have to mainline it.
He hasn't got time to waste. Science.
Lucy Warren wanted to do this. Let's hope he's accomplishing something important.
What's he doing now?
I love how
he's
this scene...
injecting himself with LSD is what he's doing.
Yeah, like an appropriate medical adult.
Which he had already dosed somebody else with in this movie, which we did talk about.
Now he's sitting down.
Is he all right?
As far as I can tell.
The movie's worst LSD trip.
He's in the phase out phase. He's just kind of dazing out there.
Yeah, you can feel it creeping up his spine. Yeah. It's also accompanied by the worst commentary ever. Like,
what does that stuff do to you?
Well, for one thing, nightmares. You're wide awake.
Nightmares.
You're having nightmares.
But you're wide awake.
Blurring of vision has been replaced by distinct rocking and tilting sensation.
Always the competent
I
scientist.
don't seem to be tilting, but the room is from side to side. Time.
She's getting dilated.
Emotionally, I begin to feel somewhat apprehensive.
That's funny. That's how I felt about the film, emotionally. Apprehensive. See, this is when he realizes the hero dose may have been too much.
Well, it's closing in on me.
He's talking again. I wish I could hear.
Is he all right?
Something is scary.
Miss Closely. You gotta make it stop. The walls. The walls. The walls.
You sir didn't give this
God.
movie enough credit. This is a great movie.
The walls. The walls.
The walls.
Can we help him?
The overuse of music sometimes, though.
Break the door. Break
Yeah, I mean that's
the
just the
lock.
product of its
He may be
time.
suffering, David. That drug may be hurting him.
He's only suffering in his mind. Nothing is hurting him.
Hurt his mind.
Lucy, there's nothing we can do to help him now.
This feels like reefer madness for
If
LSD.
I try to stop it or even minimize it with an antidote, I might kill him.
I gotta get out of here.
He just needed it. It's the only way he could make himself afraid.
No air. I can't breathe. The window. It won't open. It's locked.
It's locked as he shoves it open.
It's locked. This is a great scene. What a great movie. Oh my god, my assistant, what happened to him? That's the classic image right
We gotta
there.
get in there. Isn't there
Yeah,
another key?
that's the classic shot.
He's so good.
Mustn't scream, even though he knows it's what's gonna keep him alive.
There we go. He does. He screams. All right, that was
passes
an
out.
excellent scene from an excellent movie, The Tingler.
Excellent is not that movie, but it was probably the best scene from a god-awful movie.
And when he gives the other the deaf and mute lady the LSD, that's when we see the color in the movie for the first time. So we did talk about that scene, but not.
We
the
did
reason
talk
why.
about that,
Yeah.
but we didn't talk about the fact that that he dosed this poor woman with LSD. With I can't believe we just kind of glossed over that
I know.
one major factor, rookie mistake on our part. Wow.
Really though, that's why we have this rewind segment.
Yep. So in case anything like that happens again, that's we're just gonna rewind that a little bit and continue forward.
All right, well that brings us to Act 1 of our podcast, featuring The Wolfman, 1941, starring Lon Chaney Jr., legend, and directed by George Wagner. Or Wagner.
With,
I'm gonna say
Wagner.
It's Wagner?
Wagner. It's definitely
We'll-
Wagner, but
Okay.
we can roll with it. But there's also had Bela Lugosi, and I gotta say, before we get into this, I thought Bela Lugosi was the main character in The Wolfman for the longest time until I watched this movie, and I was like,
Wow.
oh, I was
I
gravely mistaken.
It's the opposite for me. I forgot Bela Lugosi was in this movie, and it's funny that he actually plays a character named Bela, like himself.
Yeah.
Legend,
it's-
and he's great in this, even in the short amount he's in it. But it's also amazing. Like, spoiler alert, everybody, we spoil the 3 movies for the most part. We don't tell you everything though, but we definitely don't.
Yeah, we're gonna
not
get
too
into
careful.
things,
Yeah.
so
Let's
let's review the trailer for The Wolfman, shall we, and get into this
and then get into it. All right.
classic.
I had never seen this.
Night monster. Prowling, killing, terrifying a countryside with the bloodlust of a savage beast. The Wolfman.
A universal.
Oh, wait. Turns out that was the end of the trailer.
Well, that's all you need. Gets
Yeah,
us
that's
going.
pretty much all we need.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, here we are. The Legend of the Damned. In many a distant village, there exists the legend of the werewolf, or wolfman. A legend of a strange mortal man with the hair and fangs of an unearthly beast. His hideous howl, a dirge of death. the Wolfman, with Claude Rains, Warren William, Ralph Bellamy, Patrick Knowles, Bela Lugosi, Mario Spenskia, and Lon Chaney as the Wolfman.
That's the way Jenny Williams was killed? Yes. Find something? Animal tracks.
Whoever is bitten by a werewolf and lives becomes a werewolf himself.
Oh, don't hand me that. You're just wasting your time.
The wolf bit you, didn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, he did. You wouldn't want to run away with a murderer, would you?
Oh, Larry, you're not. You know you're not.
I killed Bela. I killed Richardson. If I stay here any longer, you can't tell who'll be next.
Night monster. Prowling, killing, terrifying a countryside with the bloodlust of a savage beast. The Wolfman.
Okay, so if that was really a trailer for this movie, it gave away too much. He just confesses to everyone he kills in the trailer.
Yeah,
he says, "I killed Bela."
Where's the mystery?
Right in the trailer. So I guess I don't have to worry about it. So anyway, Bela, the fact that Bela Lugosi is the actor who plays the character who creates the famous Lon Chaney Wolfman. I didn't actually know that. I hadn't seen this movie. And I love that because I do love Bela Lugosi.
So did you know
Lon Chaney Jr.
You didn't know he was in the film at all?
No,
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So
because like I don't know how I associated his name with the film. I think I've seen it in posters or whatever, like Bela Lugosi and the Wolfman or something to that degree. So I've always kind of was like, I guess Bela Lugosi is the Wolfman. So I didn't really know it was, Lon Chaney.
Lon Chaney Jr., son of the great Lon Chaney, who played the Phantom of the Opera, among many other famous roles. So the original kind of scary guy, this is his son. And he's a charming guy. Yeah. He has some funny stuff. So I can take us. Let's get into it here.
Yeah. Take the lead. I've got some thoughts on this. I wrote some thoughts down, but yeah.
I'm a nitpicker for stuff like this. I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Bela Lugosi.
It may be Bela Lugosi.
Yeah, that's how they say it in this movie. So where are we at? Okay, we're starting with the plot and storytelling here. So we start off a young, we'll say young back in those days anyway, when a 35-year-old was like a young man or whatever in a movie. Young Larry Talbot is returning to his home. I don't know if it's called Talbot Castle or what, but Talbot Manor, maybe something like that. The home of his father, like Sir John Talbot, played by Claude Rains. And he's back to people. They're telling stories of him out of school, basically, and he wants to come back and sort of reestablish himself in the community a bit. He probably just eventually setting himself up for inheritance, that type of thing. Or perhaps he was called back by his father. I don't actually recall. But he's back, and he goes up to his room, and he's using his telescope, which is huge. It's a pretty magnificent telescope. And he's using it to spy on
He's a bit of a creeper with a telescope, in my opinion.
well, it's interesting because, he's eventually becoming a werewolf that's affected by the moon, and he has this kind of stargazing equipment. It was nice. Everything in this movie really connects, and it's a pretty tight movie.
So just to pause you there, Larry Talbot returns to his ancestral home in Llanwelly, Wales, to bury his recently deceased brother and reconcile with his sister.
Oh, right. His brother died. I had forgotten that. Yeah. Thanks, man. All right. So he's spying on a young lady with his telescope. She's down at an antique shop in town.
A local girl named Gwen Conleaf? Conleaf,
yeah. Conleaf's antique shop.
Yeah, Conleaf.
And So he goes into town. He wants to. I mean, he spies on her and he's paying attention too, and he has details about her room and stuff in his head. Very forward with his flirting. So he goes down to the shop, and
so creepy.
this is him in her shop, I believe. Here, yes, there he is. She's gonna buy a cane. First, he's looking for earrings because he wants to talk about her earrings.
Yeah, he's really just breaking that ice with like, hey, I saw you putting your earrings on in your room earlier through this telescope I have. Man, days before,
Werewolf? What's that?
Tinder were weird.
That's a human being who at certain times of the year changes into a wolf.
Everyone in this town has stories about werewolves, and it's all just common, everyday stuff to them.
Tell you what we'll do.
Yeah, he picked up that cane,
Take a
right?
little walk tonight, then we'll talk it over.
No.
See you at 8.
No.
Fine, I'll be here at 8.
He just doesn't take no for an answer. This guy.
No, he doesn't. He's a little much.
but he's got her hook, line, and sinker. She's waiting for him there at 8. Yeah, with a friend though, because she doesn't trust this guy entirely, and nor should she.
Who did you expect?
Nobody. Told you I couldn't go out with you.
And yet you wore those earrings that I like.
The half moon earrings. So another moon reference. So they're going into town basically too, because when he was leaving their shop, some gypsies went by in their horse and cart, and they read fortunes, is what she tells him. He's like, "Oh, I haven't had my fortune told in a long time. Maybe we should go there tonight," and that's his whole plan for the date. So an interesting first date. You just walk with this strange guy into the woods to find some gypsies.
Yeah, considering like, she's an engaged woman and she's just like, who's this mystery man that was spying on me? Well, he did buy a wolf cane from my father. I'll go wander the woods with him. But you know what? I'll bring a friend. And then he shows up and there's this friend, and it's like, it gives like this, like, we're going to go have threesome vibes. It's like, wait, what? It's like, okay, why not?
So they find the gypsies, and it's none other than Bela Lugosi and another woman, an older woman who I actually love in this movie. She's really good. I don't think I have an image of her, but she's great as well. So the friend of the person Lon Chaney's character, Larry Talbot, is courting, goes in first to get her fortune told, and Bela starts to tell her fortune, and he sees the pentagram, or the pentangle as they call it in a movie we're going to watch, or also watch for this episode, and which is a sign that that's somebody he's going to kill later in the evening, because he is a werewolf himself, Bela Lugosi. And so he's like, "Get out of here! I can't read your fortune today. Come back tomorrow." And she like freaks out and screams at him and runs away. And
yeah, poor Jenny.
Yeah,
she's marked
Jenny.
for death.
Yes. Well, like on their way there too, I I love everything, how all the little nods they do. They walk by a wolfsbane plant, which is a delphinium, real nice garden plant. And she tells a poem about werewolves that the other lady had said earlier.
Even a man who is pure in heart and says his prayers by night may become a wolf when the wolfbane blooms and the autumn moon is bright.
And he's just like, "Y'all know that one, huh?" It's pretty funny.
The funny thing about that guy poem or whatever about the wolfbane's moon is bright and stuff. A lot of people assumed and just sort of kind of like fabled that it was an old like gypsy poem from like back in the day, but it was actually revealed that the director just kind of made it up on the spot one day, and they rolled with it, and it just sort of like evolved into this like mystery of like things before. But yeah, he just kind of made it up, and ever since that film, in multiple werewolf films, that poem has been referenced, and slightly altered ways, but mostly it's a big reference.
Well, that's going to be a trend here tonight. Is werewolf movies definitely borrow from each other, but in a good way, to continue the lore and keep some sort of cohesiveness. Oh, yeah, I do have an image of that lady. So there's the other lady. This happens later when he's trying to figure out what's going on.
Maria Opinlinsky, I think it was her name. I can't. Last name is a tongue twister. I'm not going to lie, but she plays the character of Maliva, the gypsy sorceress.
Yes, and she's very cool. So the date's over, and they're going back through the woods, and Larry gets bit by a werewolf. Well, first he kills Jenny. The werewolf Bela kills Jenny, because he saw the pentagram.
Yeah, he kind of freaks out, turns into a werewolf, and then hunts down Jenny.
Yeah, and then catches up to Larry, but Larry's got his silver-handled cane that he just bought at the antique
shop.
Fun
fact about the cane, apparently that was made of vulcanized rubber, the head of it was.
Oh, okay. So they could really haul off.
Yeah, they could go off and not hit anybody. And the other thing
they throw some beatings in this...
Yeah, and the other thing too, in the scene where he's fighting the dog wolf. So there was a bunch of talk about this. When the script was originally written, it was all just sort of meant to be in Lon Chaney's head, and there was never really going to be shown any monster. But Hollywood or whatever, the producers were like, no, let's make this monster a thing. Let's do it. So then they were going to just have him be like a dog. And that's kind of what they roll with Bela Lugosi. And the dog that Lon Chaney is fighting in that scene is actually his own German Shepherd.
Oh, that's funny. Interesting. And that is a theme that runs through these movies, at least the first two. A lot is whether it's in their head or it's real. That's what the main character who is a werewolf, they always have that kind of crisis of character first.
Yeah.
Am I a werewolf or am I crazy? It's almost easier to believe I'm crazy because, of course, it's easier to believe you're crazy. So and
it's also very easy for his character to believe he's crazy because the townspeople around him are just feeding into the delusion of oh, it's probably just a beast that's running around, or it's nothing. It's not. It's certainly not you. You're acting strange, but I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah,
you're growing shirts out of nowhere.
Yeah, his father doesn't want any of it, but there's also this doctor that's very interested in the phenomena, but again doesn't think. See, that's another common theme that happens again in American Werewolf in London. Is there's a psychologist or a doctor that thinks where he's suffering from a werewolf issue, but that it's probably in his head, but that it's still a werewolf thing. And so there's this whole, and they're trying to rationalize the psychologist is whether they believe in werewolves too the whole time. There's okay, so this guy thinks he's a werewolf, but how does that explain all the mutilations and so I like the running themes in these werewolf movies. I'd never watched 3 werewolf movies back to back, and I liked the effect that it had because they have similar themes. So here we go.
I think
that's a little. Oh yeah,
so
I'll put that away.
I was gonna say there was a shot, or there was a discussion between the father, I think a doctor, and it was the investigators, and they were going on about trying to figure out who the killer is. They had their suspicions it might be Lon, but they didn't quite have proof, so they're still kind of doing the back and forth. I forget if it was.
Oh, I
think it was
funny.
Larry Talbot says this line, which is, "You policemen always in such a hurry, as if dead men hadn't had all eternity."
Yeah, that's a good one. I've skipped over a couple of good sound effects from Bela Lugosi and stuff.
Can't tell you anything tonight. Come back tomorrow.
What did you see? Something evil?
No. Now go away. Go quickly. Go!
Go quickly. God, he has good delivery. This guy was meant for horror movies.
I mean,
And apparently, he didn't know English.
also-
He just learned it for his lines.
He played Dracula too, right?
Yes, he was the great. The reason everyone talks like this when they play a Count Dracula is because of Bela Lugosi. And among other things, he played Igor. Was his name Igor? Fritz. No, I think it was Igor, Dr. Frankenstein's assistant. And that was a great one for him. He also played the Mummy eventually, no, not the Mummy. That was Boris Karloff. He also played, or did he play it eventually? He played Frankenstein after Frankenstein's monster.
Actually,
after,
it's funny you mentioned Boris Karloff because he was meant to be originally cast as Larry Talbot in this movie.
Oh, really?
It was originally conceived of for Boris Karloff to be the main character in this film.
I kind of like that it wasn't Karloff. He's great in the roles he plays, and I'm sure he would have done a fine job. But the kind of smarmy, like, confident, slick guy from the city, I think Lon Chaney plays better than Boris Karloff would.
Lon Chaney was very like greedy in this film.
Well, of course. That's the one I killed the wolf with.
Yeah, so that's back at they're interrogating him once he's come to, because he's been, as werewolves always are, he's found unconscious and basically naked.
Well, yeah, because they're like, you killed a werewolf, but the gypsy Bella has been murdered, and we're trying to figure out why it might be you.
You've been a long while coming.
I'm not buying anything.
And I am not selling anything.
That's when he goes back. Oh, that's not the one I wanted to play. This is what I meant to play.
You frightened us last night, my boy. I'm sorry. I guess I did kind of pass out.
He just thinks he got drunk and passed out in the woods.
Well, I mean, they can't substantiate a story, so there's going to be suspicion to all that, right? You're fighting wolves when there's a dead girl or a dead man beaten to death and a woman with her throat tearing out. Like, come.
Yeah. And, he's the new guy back in town, too, so immediately everyone in the town's going to suspect him anyway. It's like there was no murders before you got back.
The other thing, too, is they're just like, where were you last night? He's like, I got attacked by a wolf. And they're like, well, where's your injuries? And he's like,
yeah.
That's a really good question. That's a really good question.
Except for he has one pentagram scar. But they're like, you could have got that anyway. Like, that could have fell on a piece of metal. And like, got that nice
pentagram.
You could have cut a cookie cutter. You could have fell on a cookie cutter right in the.
I've been hanging. I've been hanging out with witches, Larry.
Yeah, seriously. So, all right. So then, he goes back and he's worried that it was him and he's a werewolf. He goes back and sees the gypsy lady. And she tells him, she's like, yeah, Bela was a werewolf. I knew. We all knew. Like, we were just managing it. But now you're a werewolf, so good luck with that, basically.
Yeah. She's like, you're a werewolf. Wear this pendant. As long as you wear this pendant, you'll be safe. Nobody will get harmed. And this fool, he's like, cool. Hey, girl that I really want to impress, completely engaged woman, take this pendant so you're safe.
Yeah.
And then immediately turns into a werewolf.
Yeah. Which we have here. And, well, let's listen to it. Why don't we? And we get the Wolfman.
Okay, so about this transformation,
it looked pretty good for its day. It looked really good.
Yeah, for its day, it looked good in certain scenes, but it was like the transformation itself. They really only focused on the feet, and they did a couple like cross dissolve shots.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is when he's transforming, he like takes his shirt off and he's wearing like the muscle shirt or whatever. And then he's running in the woods and he's in like a full plumber's gear, like he's from fucking Mario all of a sudden.
Here he goes, running through the woods. I love this the woods shot though, with all these old gnarly trees and the constant fog. It's a great set.
Yeah. So speaking of that, so sorry, that set, the foggy floored forest. Apparently, a lot of scenes were filmed there, and it was the largest indoor set Universal had ever built at the time, occupying the entire soundstage of the studio's back lot.
Worth it. It's pretty great.
Yeah, you can tell. That's the other thing. This movie has like a ton of great great physical sets, like practical sets, like the Talbot Mansion Manor
is also great.
You know,
the big telescope they have, like everything. Like,
well,
they spent money on that.
Like, if you notice, it's just a big 3-piece set, right? Like, there's the entrance, right? Then there's like his little
main
work
room,
area. There's up just above that little area. It's like a little like gorgeous
observatory,
like,
or whatever.
Observatory. Yeah, like well done.
Very
that was definitely a studio and a half. That thing.
I think I forgot to show the poster. There it is, the Wolfman. Yeah. Well, it would have been interesting as just like a psychological thriller with no actual Wolfman. But I am glad they actually created the Wolfman, because then it sort of gave us all of these other movies with werewolves.
It's true. It's true. It did give us all these other movies, and it was kind of it was interesting because I got a few morsels, if you will, to share about this film. So, in Kirk Sotomak's original script for the film, whether or not Lawrence Talbot really underwent a physical transformation to a werewolf, or the transformation simply occurred in his mind, was left ambiguous. The Wolfman was never to appear on screen. Ultimately, the studio determined that Talbot's literal transformation into a werewolf would be more appealing to the audience and thus more profitable. The script was revised accordingly. Universal originally planned the project for Boris Karloff. We talked about that. Bela Lugosi actively campaigned for the lead role, but he ended up actually playing a minor supporting role in Bela. So
he often got the short end of the stick. Like, he usually often got upstaged by Karloff. Not upstaged acting-wise, but, paid less, given a lesser role, underbilled. Like, they would always say Karloff first.
The other specific, this is one I probably found the most interesting. In this movie, we're told that a werewolf is a human being who becomes a wolf at certain times of the year. When the wolfbane blooms and the autumn moon is bright. And the moon is never depicted in the film.
No, you don't
there's
see
only
it.
Yeah, this is the only one of the Universal series of Wolfman films in which the full moon is never shown. In the sequel, the folklore is changed to when the moon is full and bright.
Interesting. So that's another thing about this. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I've got like 4 more facts, and then that's it. Many of the modern myths of the werewolves originated from this film, such as a person becoming a werewolf through a bite, the only way to kill a werewolf with a silver bullet, and werewolves and their victims being marked with pentagrams. Some are taken from early unsuccessful werewolf movies. The earlier Werewolf of London from 1935, and others are original concepts created by writer Kurt Sidemek. Actual werewolf folklore is extremely varied in some. One became a werewolf by being cursed or by making a pact with the devil, could turn at any time and were mortal and could be killed by conventional means. Later films added details of werewolves being immortal again, and then invention of Hollywood and basically an excuse to keep bringing the character back for sequel after sequel.
And eventually team up with, Abbott and Costello. Or not.
Yeah, and have the original Avengers.
Yeah. It's interesting to see when we get to American Werewolf in London, which pieces of these folklore they run with and which ones they don't. And they explain even in that movie which, like, the ones they don't, they still poke fun at a little bit. So
and my final 2 facts for this movie, which are probably going to blow your mind, they blew mine. The Wolfman battled a bear in one scene. But unfortunately, the bear ran away during filming, and what few scenes were filmed were put on were put in the theatrical trailer. What happened when that bear ran away?
Oh no! Is this a sad story?
No, well, I don't know the entire story, but what happened was the 600-pound bear actually ran after actress Evelyn Ankers, who escaped. The bear escaped its trainer and chased the actress up a ladder, where she was pulled to safety by an electrician.
Oh my god!
Yes, so there's a fucking live bear in this movie at some point that he was supposed to fight.
They used to do a lot of stuff crazy stuff to make a good movie back in the day, and it didn't always work out.
And the most insane thing.
That's not the most insane thing?
No, I think this one might top it, but who knows? Maybe you disagree. The final fact for the Wolfman that I have to share: this movie premiered 2 days after the attack on Pearl Harbor.
Oh wow! I bet you the theaters were empty.
I would say so. I can't see that being a great opening weekend.
No,
you think the Hollywood would be like, maybe we should wait a month, guys? But
maybe people needed the escape.
Well, yeah, there was actually a bunch of talk about, if there should be horror films because of the attack. They didn't want to go scaring audience after all of, the tragedy.
Unless you're Lawrence Woolsey, at which point it's an opportunity.
It's true.
Bombs, you say?
The screen explode.
Perfect. But yes, our boy Larry, he's running around. He's trying to tell Evelyn. Was her name Evelyn? No, that was her real name, wasn't it?
It was Gwen.
Gwen, yes. Trying to tell Gwen he's a werewolf. He's finding out he's a werewolf from the gypsy lady. It's a full moon, or I guess the full moon for werewolves lasts a few nights, from what it would seem. Because the next night he turns into the werewolf, of course, and he commits some eatings, some werewolf attacks. And they talk about the next day that there's more murders in the town, and there's just he's losing it now. He's wondering if he's crazy, but all these werewolf characters that are wondering if they're crazy, there's still all these unexplained murders that have to make you wonder. This is the doctor character.
Now you ask me if I believe a man can become a wolf. If you mean can he take on the physical characteristics of an animal, no, it's fantastic. However, I do believe that most anything can happen to a man in his own mind.
So these psychiatrists are,
too.
Yeah, they're convinced he's crazy, but they're also convinced that he's animalistic because he's so crazy. They're like, no, he's just as savage as a werewolf because he's crazy. And that's pretty much what they think in American Werewolf in London too. They're like, no, it's just some crazy
so it just kind of falls apart. So I don't know. This film, it's set up and it looks pretty, but it starts to fall apart pretty quick around the end.
And it ends quickly too. It doesn't.
It ends super quickly. That's kind of a continuous theme with these things too.
Well, let's yada yada a bit. So they're hunting him down. He's a werewolf. He's running through the woods. He's seen a pentagram on Gwen.
So
he's worried,
which means he has to go kill her.
So he's gonna leave town and everything. She's just like, no, I want to go with you, and she's left the other guy. She likes the wolf,
which completely inexplicable. Woman, you're married to this guy who admittedly is
that's
not
her
a bad
friend.
Dude.
I don't think they're married. That's her friend.
Well, no, they're engaged. It's been established that she's been engaged to this guy who is not a bad guy. Is very really nice comparatively. Even was like, hey man, sorry I was a jerk to you earlier. We cool,
let's play this shooting game. Let's play this.
Yeah, let's go play this shooting game. Can't hit the wolf? Don't worry, I got the wolf, and that spirals him out.
Which was like the one kind of glaring old school misogyny moment for me in this movie. It's just like the lady doesn't get a chance to play the gun game. They don't even consider it. It was like, look, we're a couple of dudes. Let's play this gun shooting game.
I don't know. I feel like there's a lot more glaring misogyny in this Just
Maybe.
the fact that he was so like, oh, I was peeping at you through the window.
Oh,
you and I
well,
should go
him
on a
as a
date. Like,
character.
yeah,
100%,
like, and they kind of treat
That's
her
personal misogyny rather than the cultural misogyny I was talking about. But yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
He's a flawed
So
character, old Larry Talbot.
he's very flawed. He's a very weak and greasy character.
He is.
And yeah, his transformation into a werewolf is interesting. I
fits.
felt bad.
You say he's weak and greasy. That fits a guy who is, becomes just increasingly more unsure about himself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and it's believable.
Kind of
like
the
people around him be like, "Oh, this is Larry. He's kind of spiraling again."
Yeah, he lost it since his brother died.
Yeah. So they're hunting him. His own father is hunting him with his own cane.
So his father. Okay, yeah, it was the yada yada. Yeah, who gives me Bob? Or was it not Kelso? It was Bob. Yeah, it was Bob Kelso vibes. Have you ever watched Scrubs?
No.
You never watched Scrubs? Oh
no,
man, that's a shame.
There's an actor, Star Trek and the Detectorists.
Yeah, he gives me Bob Kelso vibes from Scrubs. Scrubs is a great series up until like the last 2 seasons. That's a talk for another day, though. Anyway,
I killed Richardson. If I stay around here much longer, you can't tell who's going to be next.
That's him here. He's come to grips with it. He knows. He's like, no, I'm a werewolf. It's true. Can't deny it anymore. I gotta get out of here.
You'll be next, and you'll be next, and you'll be next.
And then, like I say, his father's hunting him in the woods, and he happens across the gypsy lady, and I love the scene between those two.
Oh, the gypsy's been filling his mind with this werewolf nonsense.
Nonsense, Sir John?
Yes, you've been preying on his gullibility with your witches' tales.
But you fixed him, didn't you, Sir John?
But you fixed him, didn't you, Sir John? Like, nobody believes all the magic and stuff that we believe, but until it affects you directly, and then you're all like, "Oh, help me with the magic." Oh, your psychiatrist didn't fix him, did he, Sir John?
Yeah,
she's awesome. What's Sir John? She says Sir John in that scene like 10 times, and it's just creepy the way she does it. Yes, Sir John, because he's known in the town. He's Sir John Talbot. But, yeah, she's awesome. Anyway, we'll talk about her later in a minute. He finds him, or they find each other, how you could say, the Talbots, and we have a confrontation. Oh yeah, the father saves Gwen. She gets away.
Yeah, because so the setup for this is he's strapped his son into a chair and made him look out the window while they go hunt the wolf that they think is just a wolf.
Yeah,
we're gonna kill the beast, and you're gonna stop freaking out.
Should have skipped over the chair. That's classic. That's what you think, and like they joke about it, like we're werewolves, not swearwolves. In what we do in the shadows is they just tie themselves to trees and stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, he ties his son, thinking that'll do it. And then, of course, it doesn't do it. He busts out for one final romp through the woods. He comes across. I mean,
pretty weak strapping. If you're tying him down because you're worried that there's like a 5% chance maybe he's a werewolf, use some chains.
Maybe, get a little extra there.
But they weren't. They just thought he was a crazy person. They're just like, you just rest here uncomfortably in this chair.
Yeah, you get a break. So yeah, he basically breaks free, gets to Gwen, sees Gwen in the woods, basically like grapple chokes her, like
because she's looking for him.
Shakes the shit out of her, right? She's looking for him, and he's just like, you give me like your flesh, but he doesn't like really attack and eat her. He just shakes the shit out of her. She screams and passes out. And then
you mentioned it already, but I do think the full clothing that he has on does kind of take away from it. It makes him less scary and intimidating.
Yeah, so like I was saying, like when he first transforms, he's got like a muscle shirt on. I bet you if they played it where he's just got like a tattered muscle shirt and just like hairy arms and a back, that probably would have been a little more scarier, but they also needed to put him in a fucking jumpsuit for some reason, so it's like, okay, cool, I guess.
Not the best choice. But then we have the final confrontation here, and the father bludgeons to death his own son, not knowing it's his own son.
Yeah.
But then the movie just cuts. It's just over. He just bludgeons him to death.
Yeah.
It's over.
Yeah, he's down on the ground, and they're like, John, what's going on? And he's like, it was attacking Gwen, and then it just turns into his son, and he's left like, what? And then, boom, the end. Movie over. And I'm sitting there like, wait, what? Really? Wait, what? Did you guys forget to write like the third act of this film? What? Okay.
That may also be a werewolf trope because they do that same thing in American Werewolf in London. That just
they do that same thing in the American Werewolf, and
which I don't hate. I don't like belabored endings. Like,
I mean,
these ones might be a bit abrupt, but I like that there's not just like a bunch of jibber jabber after these final events. That
I mean,
don't really do anything but maybe set up a sequel or give some exposition or something like that. Like it didn't need it. That's what would happen now. That would be the person who comes out and explains everything, but you don't always need that.
I guess so. That's fair, but it also like it feels hollow in a sense. Like there's no weight to what kind of just happened. You know,
it's shocking. All of a sudden, you're just like, "What? What?
Yeah, exactly.
Did I miss something?"
Like,
and then you're like, "No, I guess I didn't miss anything." But it leaves you to think that for a second.
So yeah, that's the end of the Wolfman. Sudden, abrupt.
Yeah, well, let's talk about what scenes would you hold up? Scene or scenes. What's your favorite scene in this movie?
What are my favorite scenes in the Wolfman? So I don't know. There wasn't like a lot that stood out to me, or like I guess like when I wanted the transformations to be cool, but they didn't quite hold up.
We've got good transformations coming tonight, Murphy. Don't you worry about
that. Yeah, no, like that's an obvious thing. Like, no duh. But like for this film of the 50s, you know, I think I was hoping for a little more, and it was very much not. Was there any good scenes that I could like? There's nothing that honestly stands out to me as a good scene. It all just kind of felt like connective tissue to get to, you know, the few bits. There were some lighting scenes that were nice. Maybe when he was like running through the woods, you know, those classic picture shots that you would get of him. But like, yeah, I'm gonna say no. There's no scenes that hold up in this movie for me.
Well, there's two or three that hold up for me. And I really like the gypsy scene with Bela Lugosi. He's just captivating, man. Bela Lugosi can just draw you in. That one. And I think it establishes the mood of the film pretty well. In fact, maybe one of the creepier scenes, and maybe the rest of it doesn't quite live up to that, actually. As far as the fear factor, the scariness factor. But also, I like the scene where he's spying on her with the telescope. It's creepy and weird, but that's what makes it.
No, I feel like that was completely unnecessary. I mean, like,
it's
of all the ways to get,
you know,
there are a billion different ways you can meet a girl. There are a billion different ways.
This was a creepier one.
He could have just gone to the shop and was just like, "Hey, I'm interested in like such and such gear," and wow, you're a pretty girl, and just had the exact same conversation, and we could have subverted the 15 minutes prior of him looking at this is our city. Like, the only reason that scene exists is so that they can show the town that they built to show that they're in a town, and that town is the same town that was used in fucking Frankenstein. So it's like, that's the whole reason that scene exists. And it really, like, I would say it don't. It was. They could have been.
Okay.
They could have been done better. It could have been.
I got one more then, and I mentioned it already. It's when Sir John meets up with the gypsy lady. I love that scene.
And she just says Sir John a million times.
But it's the conversation they're having. She's having with him too. She's sort of mocking him, but she's sort of helping him. She's sort of not helping him. She's doing a lot of work there, and
she's doing a lot of fence sitting.
Yeah, a little. Yeah. A lot of fence sitting, because there's risk to her. If she's just like, oh yeah, werewolves or something, all of a sudden they label her crazy and like burn her as a witch or something. Like, who knows? So, yeah, she's cool, and so was Bela Lugosi. So they weren't the Wolfman, but they were the setup for the Wolfman, and they were my favorite parts. So I guess that brings us to actually characters and actors. So,
yeah, I would say my favorite was Claude Rains as John Talbot. I enjoyed his delivery of most of his lines and stuff. Yeah. I also enjoyed the fiance of Gwen. Played, what was his character's name? Did I write that down at all?
Oh, I forget. But yeah, he was fine.
Yeah, he was all right. I like that, his portrayal. I wrote down so many pipes. There was a lot of pipes in this movie. It was like every scene somebody was smoking a pipe.
Well, it was the time. You see a lot of cigarettes in old movies. But yeah, so for characters for me, like I say, I thought the gypsy characters were great. The doctor character was pretty good too, the psychiatrist character. And I did find Lon Chaney Jr. quite charming.
Lon Chaney Jr. He definitely
fun to
holds
follow
the
through
film
this
together.
movie.
Yeah,
he does.
He holds the film together for sure. Like, he acts his ass off. You can tell he's like really putting all of his effort into it. So yeah, no faults for Lon Chaney Jr. He pretty much holds it up. So I guess he would be somebody else.
And Gwen's good, actually. They have a lot of banter and chemistry, actually. Considering he's like this kind of creepy guy, but she's no pushover.
I would not say she's no pushover. She's literally an engaged woman that's just like, creepy guy who's never knows things about me. Yes, I'll go on a random date with you, and then immediately like wants to start hanging out with him. And even though she's finding out he's potentially a dangerous werewolf, and he admits to the murder of 3 people, she's just like, nah, you're cool. I'm still into you. And like, I don't understand the women's motivations in the first 2 films that we talk about today. It's very weak.
Oh, I have more problems with
absent.
That actually in the next movie.
Oh,
this one didn't bother me nearly as bad for that.
I mean, I'll admit it. This one was much better compared to American Werewolf in London's portrayals, but like,
for its day, I didn't find it too bad. She does things that she wants to do. She sort of has agency. But she might make stupid decisions. But
not the smartest.
Look, the one thing we know about these movies is the ladies always love the werewolf.
It's true, the ladies do love.
But
the
is
werewolf.
it like this animal attraction thing? You know what I mean? Like a pheromonal thing. Like there's a lot of stuff they get into like that in the next movie. But anyway, the performance I would hold up is probably the gypsy lady. She was my favorite in this one. And again, Lon Chaney was great.
I'd agree with that. Yeah, Maliva had the best. Like, yeah, she was the best.
Like, she seemed like a real character in that world.
She really did kind of seem like they just plucked her off the street and was like, "You're perfect."
Seriously, it's just like, can you play a crazy gypsy lady? She's like, "Well, I am in fact a crazy gypsy lady."
Sir John.
Sir John.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay, it's the last thing we'll talk about here in this movie. Setting aesthetic, I think you got to go full marks on that one for this one. Setting
for sure.
The aesthetic is gorgeous. Wolfman, he doesn't look bad. Once you wanted more with the transformation, and I didn't like the clothes as much. But the face for its day looks quite good.
I mean, okay, you gotta like think about like there was a lot of emphasis on the feet, and they gave him very like dog-like feet. So there's the scene
Yeah.
when he's walking through, and he's basically just like tiptoeing through. That kind of feels weird, in my opinion. I get why they didn't just give him human feet, and they were trying to go with like a dog-like thing. So like their approach was, albeit revolutionary at the time. Yeah, I would say the makeup was the weaker of the entire presentation, which, yeah, like
I don't know that he's quite the physical actor that his father was. I think Lon Chaney Jr. played a better Larry Talbot than he did Wolfman.
Yeah,
like if you had
wasn't...
Lon Chaney Jr. play Larry Talbot and then throw like Andy Serkis in as the Wolfman, you would have had a scarier wolf. But like, or even Lon Chaney Sr. Like there were actors at that time, like even the guy who played Fritz in the first Frankenstein, like that guy had some weird kind of physicality too.
Just find somebody that's got a weird physique in general, either like a lanky dude or like a monstrous kind of man.
And it didn't have to be him.
Just do an Incredible Hulk style thing, right? Yeah, exactly. Like you got Lon Chaney being the human, and then you just hire some no-name Joe who's got
some physical
really
actor, some guy who went to mime school. Like there were mimes.
Yeah, exactly. So, anything that would have been a really interesting take, and probably would have definitely made for far creepier. Because ultimately, I didn't find it to be a creepy film, just due to I don't know. I guess, like you can see the seams. I guess I don't know. There were certain things that took me out of the immersion. There were certain things that brought me back into it, but like, it was a decent presentation. Yeah.
Oh, and one more thing about the setting too. Like it's such a huge set. Like it looks big, but then you really get the scale when there's so much space between the trees, and there's quite a few trees in the shot that a horse and carriage can easily just drive between them and through all these trees without even turning or weaving much. It's a big set.
Yeah, I think there was a scene where like she's being all quiet or something like that, and then a horse just shows up, and I'm like, wait, what? How did this horse enter this scene? Did nobody notice this? What?
I think that was a jump scare thing or something. Rewatchability. You gonna watch The Wolfman again?
I don't think I'd personally watch The Wolfman again. If you're somebody that's looking to go through werewolf anthology, it's definitely a must watch if you're looking to get into horror and you're a horror fan and all that stuff. I don't think I'd rewatch it again though. It wasn't entirely like there wasn't anything in that movie that makes me want to rewatch it.
See, I think for the reasons you just said, it does have rewatchability for me. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna do a werewolf thing again, just to some Halloween. Like, oh, let's watch a couple werewolf movies. And older movies are shorter, which I find appealing. Like you can just pop this in for an hour and 10 minutes or whatever it was, and have yourself a little werewolf romp. And it does set the lore up, and the things that come after it reference it so much. You're right. It has this level of must watchability.
Well, I mean,
perhaps than rewatchability, it has must watch.
Yes, there's must watchability. It makes sense in a party atmosphere for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's slightly shorter of the three films we watched. That being said, I've always been a strong proponent of, if it's good storytelling, no matter how long it is, you're going to be sucked in. And you won't even notice the time fly by. That being said,
that's the way The Godfather works for me.
Yeah, the Wolfman manages to do that. American Werewolf in London, not so much.
Mm-hmm.
No.
We'll get to that here in 1 second. So does it hold up, Murphy? The Wolfman.
Does it hold up? Yes. I'm going to say yes, the Wolfman does hold up.
I agree with you.
Yeah. My gripes with it aside, and just like my general flaws with it aside, I think it still holds up. It's a much better film of that era compared to last week's atrocity that you made me watch. But
I will admit, I liked The Tingler, but I will admit this is a better movie than The Tingler.
Yeah, this is a much better movie. This is more on par of what I'm expecting from this era of film. So like, I was, I'm willing to give a level of leniency with the certain presentations that are portrayed before me. The Tingler just had no excuse. It was just too much. So
that's when we forgot about the acid scene, Murphy. It's a great movie.
The acid scene is the better scene. Yeah, it's true. But like, there was so much to make me forget about the acid scene too. So it's not a great sign.
Act 2.